Today on Half-Cocked Hilbilly, we're going to talk about the old man that should have retired in 1940, but somehow keeps coming back to work. Let's start the show. If you ever looked at a gun in a video game like this Mosin Nagant and thought, man, I need me one of those, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. In 1891, Sergei Mosin and Leon Nagant worked together to create the 1891 Mosin Nagant rifle. Sergei Mosin designed the action and Leon Nagant designed the magazine. The 1891 Mosin served until 1930, and then a new version, which you can see here, the 1891-30, was created. After this rifle, there are a couple different variations, such as the M38, which is the same rifle with a shortened barrel, and then the M44, which is the same rifle with the shortened barrel, as well as a folding spike bayonet on the side. Over 37 million copies of this rifle were produced, and you can find it everywhere in the globe. It was a huge hit in the surplus market here, and you can often find it under $100 until recently. They were sent all over Eastern Europe and even to the third world nations. Currently, you can actually find this rifle in service with the Russians in the Russian-Ukraine war. While Ukraine has help from most third world nations, Russia has largely been left to fend for itself. The Russian military has posted some crazy stuff on social media. We've seen wooden body armor, Maxim machine guns with Picatinny rails welded on top, and even this rifle coming out of the very back of weapon lockers and getting issued to rear echelon troops. It seems like every time the Soviet Union's at its wit's end, this rifle gets pulled from storage and is put back into warfare. Well, at one point, this rifle was considered the garbage rod here in the US, and it wasn't known for its accuracy. The trigger was pretty horrible, and the action wasn't great. You absolutely cannot kill this behemoth of a rifle shooting a powerful cartridge. As far as the specs go for this rifle, we got a 28.8-inch barrel and an overall length of 48.5 inches. It's a 5-round bolt-action rifle. It has a hooded post front sight and a ladder-style rear sight. Overall, the action is incredibly simple and the trigger mechanism is only about 3 parts. Now, as far as the fit and finish goes, this rifle was produced as quickly as possible to make sure Russia could arm its soldiers as fast as possible. Mine was made in 1942 and it has been re-blued, so it's hard to say what the original finish looked like. But as far as the metal condition goes, it's not smooth at all. There's tons of grooves and machining marks, but it does work. The stock is just a simple birch stock, but it does clean up nicely. As far as weight balance and feel goes, this rifle's really front heavy and has a very short length of pull. People in the late 19th and early 20th century did not have the nutrition we have today, so a lot of them were not super big. So this buttstock is designed for that in mind. One thing that is nice about a short length of pull is that if you have a thick coat on, it's actually pretty quick to get up and it's easy to shoulder. As far as the shooting experience goes, it is absolutely awesome. Everyone who gets behind this rifle loves it. It's not the most accurate, but it has a really satisfying boom, and that 7.62 by 54R cartridge is definitely a beast. If you are able to score one of these in Cosmoline, or you do have someone who's willing to give you the accessories, they come with a military sling, an oil bottle, 2 ammo pouches, and a cleaning kit. I don't have my cleaning kit here, it's somewhere in storage, but it comes with a barrel brush and some basic tools to take down the bolt and adjust the sights. When you work the action, the satisfaction is up there with a pump action shotgun. The rough action makes a lot of noise, and when you hit something, you know you hit it. While the bolt and trigger are kind of rough out of the box, they're very easy to gunsmith. Like I said earlier, the action is incredibly simple and the trigger is literally 3 parts. So if you have some Dremel tool, polishing compound, and buffing pads, you can really easily take the machining marks out of the bolt and the trigger. I did it to mine and it made the world of a difference. The sights are crude and they're definitely not precise. These Mosins are infamous for shooting pretty high. The FUD lore on this is that Russians were trained to shoot for the belt buckle, which I do think is true, but just keep that in mind when you're trying to sight your rifle in. Mine wasn't necessarily shooting that far off. You'll see here at 50 yards, it was just a few inches high. I do think accuracy really depends on which specific serial number you get with this Mosin. Some of them don't have matching serial numbers. Some stock fits are not as great. Some triggers are better than others. Guys, I've been talking about shooting this gun for way too long. Let's pop over to the range and see what it does to some live targets. All right, everyone, before we head out today, I just want to see some practical effects in case you want to hunt a 2-liter at about 8 yards. We have a survivor.
What?
Quick range tip here. If you are using corrosive ammunition, which is most military surplus ammo, make sure you run Windex with ammonia down the barrel. If you don't clean your rifle out after you're done shooting corrosive ammo, there could be a lot of damage done to the bore. The salts and ammonia actually stop that corrosive powder from forming rust. So still clean your rifle out as soon as you can, but if you want to try to preserve the rifling for future generations, I would recommend just dumping that down and cleaning it immediately once you get home from the range. As far as this rifle's purpose in the modern world, it's no longer a throwaway. These rifles are harder to come by, and you're really just subject to the secondary market. You might be able to find these at a gun shop or maybe a pawn shop, but they were really inexpensive back in the day, so most people bought them up. I purchased mine at the tail end of when military surplus prices were low. I paid $189 for it. You used to be able to find them for under $100. If you really do want to get your hands on one of these, if you know someone, they could give you a good deal, but I've seen them run between $700 and $2,500. Once again, depending on the rifle that you get. If you want one of these rifles to use as a sporter rifle or a range rifle, if you can get your hands on a finished model, those rifles are top tier for what they are. Russian models vary in their quality, and then the Chinese produced Type 53 is definitely a good shooter, but they're definitely not a looker. While this is definitely not my first choice for a high-powered centerfire rifle, if you were to drop me in a third world country and handed me this, I definitely wouldn't be underarmed, and it does have its uses. Surplus ammo currently runs between 50 cents and $1 per round. It just depends where you find the ammo. The next type of ammo we have is a soft point. These aren't as common as your full metal jackets, but you can find them, and they're going to weigh about 180 grains. These are going to be going about 2,600 feet per second, and they're also going to hit with 2,600 foot-pounds of energy. And the ballistics are roughly between a 308 and a 30-06. Now let's run some pros and cons here. We're going to start with cons because I definitely think this rifle deserves to end on a good note. First thing I don't like about this rifle is the ergonomics. The barrel is incredibly long at 28.8 inches, and the length of pole is really short, and you're supposed to grip the rifle right here under the action. So if you're a slightly larger shooter like myself, you end up kind of being very scrunched up while you're shooting. The next thing I don't like is it is kind of expensive now. Unless you really want a Mosin Nagant rifle to have a Mosin Nagant, it's really not worth buying anymore. Third is, the rifle is kind of inaccurate. It is definitely usable, but for its size and for the caliber that it fires and its intended use, it could do a lot better. And the last bone to pick I have with it is it's hard to mount optics. Now what I will say is when this rifle was invented in 1891, optics weren't really as big of a deal. First problem is this is a 90-degree bolt. So when you cycle the action, this bolt handle sticks straight up, which gets in the way of modern optics. So if you wanted to run a scope over this portion of the action, you have to buy a custom bent bolt to put on it. If you did want to mount a normal rifle scope, you'd have to either remove this front sight or, like on the PU models, cut away the wood stock and drill and tap the side of your receiver for a scope mount. You can also buy scout mounts for your rear sight as well, which is less invasive and would still allow you to use your stock bolt and stripper clips. Now, what I love about this rifle is the shooting experience. Like I said earlier, this rifle is just plain fun. It's kind of like shooting a pump action shotgun. It thumps your shoulder and it definitely thumps the targets. It's really fun fixing your bayonet, charging watermelons, Barbie dolls.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Or whatever you can find at the clearance aisle at Walmart. I also think using the stripper clips with this rough action is super satisfying and really makes you feel involved with the shooting process. Most modern centerfire rifles such as 308, 243, 30-06, or 270 cost between $1.50 and $4 a round, depending on what type of ammo you buy. This rifle for soft points that you might want to use for hunting is only about $1.25. And then if you wanted to get the cheaper military surplus stuff, it's about 75 cents a round. So that does make range sessions a lot less painful than if you were to take your 308. Now my final thoughts on this rifle is I absolutely love mine. I'm never going to sell it, and at this point it's a safe queen. Because military surplus has pretty much dried up here, it's really important that we take care of these rifles. If you do find one of these in Cosmoline, it's a wonderful project gun, which, real quick TLDR, if you get one in Cosmoline, take it completely apart, pour boiling water over the metal pieces, and then make a little fire pit outside and set your wood stock near the fire to boil out the Cosmoline and refinish with your finish of choice. If you do currently have your hands on this rifle, or you're looking to get your hands on it, make sure you preserve it. There's going to be a next generation of nerds down the road that are going to have fewer and fewer of these to pass on to their kids. Make sure you set them up for success. If I could change one thing about this rifle, I wish it could tell me stories in English. With it being made in 1942 and refinished and the rifle in pretty much shot out and the cracked stock, I'd theoretically love to hear what this rifle's been through. Well guys, thank you for watching today. Once again, my name is Half-Cocked Hilbilly. Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear feedback on my videos or suggestions for future videos. I hope to see y'all real soon. Thank y'all for watching. Bye.